Hopefully some of you remember that yesterday in the first reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah, it began by saying, God was speaking, saying, "Comfort, O comfort my people." And this theme of God comforting his people is present in today's first reading, also from the book of the prophet Isaiah. And notice in today's first reading, it goes on to say that God will give power to the faint, and he strengthens the powerless. Even youth will faint and be weary, and the young will fall exhausted. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. So God is going to comfort his people, but he's also going to strengthen them and to give them a power beyond what is naturally capable. So even young people, it's saying, will be exhausted, but those who wait for the Lord. In other words, when we have our eyes fixed on the Lord, when we have faith, we wait with great faith and hope, God will not merely comfort us, but he will give us the strength that we need to persevere, to make it through whatever difficulties we have. Now, this is very significant, and it's reiterated in today's gospel reading. Notice our Lord, he says to the crowds, "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens." And I think it's true to say that a lot of people experience weariness of life. They carry heavy burdens. They have a lot on their plate. They worry about a lot. It's not surprising. Many people are suicidal today. Yes, they're promoting it. Media is promoting it, making it seem like it's just an easy way out, when in reality it isn't. Okay, so suicide is wrong, but people often resort to suicide because they think it's going to solve their problems. In reality, it doesn't. If you commit suicide, you may actually be creating greater problems, greater burdens, greater pains and sufferings for yourself, so you don't want to do that. Now, notice our Lord's invitation in today's gospel reading. First of all, come to me, those of you who are weary and carrying heavy laden. So in other words, he wants to comfort you. But you must come to him. He's not going to force himself upon you. And then he goes on to say, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So this yoke, what is a yoke? It's important that we understand what a yoke is, because when our Lord says, "Take my yoke upon you," he's really inviting us to walk with him. So a yoke was like a wooden bar shaped in the form that it would fit over the shoulders of the oxen. So they would be yoked together, so that together they would pull whatever they had to pull, whether it was the plow or a cart or whatever. So when you're yoked together that way, the burden becomes lighter because you're sharing the load. So there's two senses in which our Lord is inviting us to take his yoke upon ourselves. One is like people who are just away from God, who aren't close to God, and they're seeking their happiness in the things of this world, not finding it. They're becoming tired, discouraged, maybe depressed, maybe even suicidal. And our Lord is saying, "Okay, come. Take my yoke upon you." And people say, "Oh, to be a Catholic, there's so many rules and obligations." It's not so many. It's not so hard. It's actually pretty easy, because when we do it, we're yoked to our Lord. So he's saying, yes, take this burden of being a Christian, a faithful follower of me, live your life as a Christian, and you will be much better off. And that's the truth. People who convert, people who embrace Christianity, they're much better off. They're at peace, they're content, they're fulfilled, they're much happier. Okay, now the other sense in which this invitation applies to all of us is that even though we are already yoked to Christ, in other words, we are believers, we are walking with our Lord, but sometimes we complain. Lord, why me? And we just feel overwhelmed with this and so many worries, and we might be tired. We might just be overly stressed out. And our Lord is saying, you're doing it the wrong way. take my yoke upon you and walk with me. Okay, and you know, some people think, oh, well, that's hard to do. But you see, we have to take time for our Lord. We need to focus on him. We need to wait for his coming. We need to be patient, and we need to walk with our Lord through every aspect of our lives. And basically the message here is that our Lord will help us. He's going to yoke himself to us when we choose to yoke ourselves to him. And his yoke is sweet, and it is easy. It lightens the load. It makes it easier for us to do the things that we need to do, to deal with the issues that we need to face, no matter what. So trusting in the Lord, walking with the Lord, knowing that he is there with us, helping us to carry our burdens, strengthening us, provided that we're always looking towards him, always waiting for him to come ever more fully to us.